Hermín Maga the Cahirley, and Deputy Callan is gone, and I'd like more time to really respond to what he said about women and being so closely associated with the De Valera that they were punished. There are many, many versions of history, but they were certainly written out, those revolutionary women. And maybe another day we might return to that, Deputy Rabbit, your ancestry. Yeah, but not a rewriting. When I was speaking earlier on, I forgot to thank the Citizens' Assembly and the Giant Oireachtas Committee for their work, and the Citizens' Assembly that worked right through COVID. I forgot to thank them, and it's important to acknowledge them, and I acknowledge them here now. They've done us a great service, as has the Cross-Party Committee, and they've produced a report. So unfortunately, Minister, you've ignored them in relation to this. And while I'm very supportive of you in relation to the previous one, I'm not a bit supportive of you in relation to this. And let me start by saying, Deputy Murphy can't because she's in the neutral chair at the moment, but a lot of what she said echoed or resonated with me as well in relation to what the real debate should be about here. And I'm taking an unusual view in the sense of the special place of the woman in the home really has never been tested. And while it has been interpreted generally with a very restrictive approach to women, and I've mentioned already the architecture of institution of the 20th century for over 100 years, and parallel with that, the ban on married women working. Women couldn't sit on juries, women couldn't inherit in their own right up to 1965, and then they only got some measure of protection, and so on and so on. All of that captured, of course, in the Kerry Babies Tribunal, that shocking, disgraceful tribunal that was there to investigate the guards, but really put the woman on trial. So that just captures some of the 20th century. But that doesn't take from, that went parallel perhaps with the forces that got stronger and stronger that interpreted that clause as very Catholic clause, which it was, the special place of the woman in the home. But the idea behind it was to protect, it happened to be the woman that was mentioned, a person to be at home to mind children, the caring role. It valued the caring role, and that they should not suffer as a result of that. And it really has never been tested in the courts. And again, I want to thank the Digest and indeed the legal people who've contributed, Professor O'Mahony, the former rapporteur for children, and the Limerick professor. They've been very good in outlining things. And what struck me was the quote of Susan Denham, for instance. And it was in a dissenting judgment where she says that that particular article didn't consign women to the home. It protected, it set out to protect the role. And I think it's very interesting what she said in the context of the Senate case, the Senator and the Minister for Education. Education. She said the Constitution is a living document. It must be construed as a document of its time, but a living document. And this special recognition is of the 21st century, and it belongs to the whole of society. And she goes on to say, Article 41(2) does not assign women to a domestic role. It recognises, and this is the important thing, the recognition. It recognises the significant role played by wives and mothers in the home. This recognition and acknowledgement does not exclude women and mothers from working in other activities outside. Unfortunately, we know parallel it did, because of a very conservative government with a particular view of women and where they should be. So it was the parallel things that happened. But what's extraordinary about Susan Denham, and also with Judge Barr in a family law case in the High Court, unfortunately was overturned in the Supreme Court as going a step too far, but he put an economic value on the mother at home in a family law dispute, in a family law separation case, and he put an economic value on the woman. And the Supreme Court, of course, slapped his hand and said, no, you can't do that, and so on. So the point I'm making is the recognition of what the woman was doing at home and the value put on it was extremely important. Now, I can see that the fact that it's gender specific is a problem. I can see that absolutely. However, the courts have been very open not leaving out the courts I just mentioned in the past, they've been very open to interpreting the Constitution as a very living document, and interpret it within a woman in the home would have to be a man or a woman in the home, whoever is the primary carer. Unfortunately, it's never been tested. And the judges themselves have expressed surprise. No more person than Judge Hogan has expressed great surprise that this particular article was never tested, because the carer has been given special protection in the home. I understand there's one case pending now in the Supreme Court in relation to social welfare. You probably have more details on it than I, Minister, but it's testing some part of this in relation to the obligation on the state to not only protect the carer, but to back that up with economic action. And that's what's missing. And then in relation to this that we're now rushing through, once again, I have the same criticism that you're rushing it through for the International Women's Day, which has really taken the joy out of International Women's Day for me, I can tell you, because I don't agree with this language that you're using that's extremely weak. And the history of this, we go back to 93, 30 years ago, and now we're rushing it through for the 8th of March. The Commission on the Status of Women said delete this article. In 1996, the Constitution Review Group recommended deleting it and replacing it. 1997, the first progress report of the All-Party Oireachtas Committee and said replace it, and so on. I won't go through all those other reports. I'll pick out the bigger ones. The Government Task Force 2006 gave options on the replacement of it. 2016, then we move forward to 2018, and there was a ministerial announcement by, I think, Minister Flanagan at the time, and of course nothing happened. And then we move forward to the Citizens' Assembly, which I've praised, and which come up with very strong but practical recommendations, given that the role of carers was brought into acute focus during the COVID crisis, given that it put a lens on the importance of caring that's undervalued in our economy. And having that experience and having listened to the 99 citizens, they come up with very specific recommendations that ye have ignored. That was followed by the joint Oireachtas Committee on Gender Equality, and their recommendations have been ignored. And then the Library Service very helpfully points out that on the 25th of April, the Interdepartmental Committee invited submissions. Those submissions closed on the 19th of May this year, and they're a very helpful note. At the time of writing, a report of the consultation was not published. Perhaps you can tell us why that wasn't published, because that would help us to understand your logic and your reasoning as to why you went for this very, very vague language. Now, there's lots of other language that I would use if I was replacing, although I reserve my position in relation to actually teasing and challenge and bringing a court case in relation to the protection given in the article that you're replacing. But having said that, on the other hand, there's any amount of suggestions from feminist organisations, and I happily class myself as a very pragmatic, practical mother and feminist. And they talk about the ethics of care and the caring economy, as Kathleen Lynch, Emeritus Professor in UCD, has done for years, about care being undervalued, being commodified, being privatised. And that is the second part of the debate we should be having. How do we firstly talk about how do we create the conditions that a parent of either sex can be at home and not be forced out into a market by the demands of a neoliberal approach to society that has led us to the precipice given climate change and wars. That's a debate worth having. And the next debate worth having is, how do we have constantly economists telling us about economy without looking at what unpaid carers are doing? Almost 300,000 of them working day and night so that our economy can thrive. Never a value put on it, never a language put on it. So let me tell you what I would agree with in relation to the feminists. They said, recognise the contribution of care work to economic development, social cohesion, and human capabilities, and so on. Number two, society collectively assume the cost of care through the funding of public service. The funding of public service, time-saving infrastructure, care workers and good conditions. And thirdly, policymakers engage with those most impacted by care gaps, including care providers and so on. 299,000 people providing care unpaid day and night, and we have a Taoiseach of this country that continuously lauds those people who get up early in the morning. Some people don't get up early in the morning because they're up all night. And that type of language of rewarding the workers and those who get up early in the morning is a self-serving, selfish, horrible narrative that hides the real value of carers to society. So then specifically in relation to the language that you're using here, I think it's wishy-washy and I think it's unacceptable. And you know, I'd nearly take my chances on the special protection of the mother in the home and taking it the whole way to the Supreme Court. I nearly would in the modern interpretation that that mother includes whoever the parent is at home, rather than what you're now bringing in. The state recognises that the provision of care by family members to each other, by reason of the bonds that exist between them, gives to society a support without which the common good cannot be achieved, and shall strive to support such provision. Now, I haven't an awful lot of difficulty with the word strive because it's similar to endeavour. My big difficulty is the wishy-washy nature of that, your failure to follow the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly and the party, the cross-committee, and the failure to put an obligation. And you're not even spelling out this serious gift that's given to us by carers that allows the economy to thrive. It's a wishy-washy recognition without any obligation. And I finally, in the last 9 seconds, if we've learned anything from COVID, if we've learned anything from climate change, it's that we need transformative change. And we get that by recognising that the value of carers is just absolutely, it's impossible to put a value on it. Let's recognise it clearly. Thank you.